Welcome back to Go Again Gaming, and welcome back to the League That Means Nothing 2, where the stakes have never been lower. We are finally entering the top 8, and we have a very interesting game for you today. As always, I am Ian, your commentator, and we are calling a game between Hank Sherlock, the Goblin King of Florida, the man from the Goblin Reserve on his not OTK Viserai. He's facing a tough matchup between his opponent Lynette Natras from New Zealand on Azalea Ace in the Hole. Traditionally, a real hard matchup for Viserai. He wants to do a couple of different things on a turn, and Azalea says, "Hey, how about one? There's your action. You got to pick one. Pick a good one." Now, obviously, Lynette is on a very different build of Azalea, the archer that we are so accustomed to seeing. After all, that's the reason we're on Go Again Gaming, the Azalea cult. And as a commentator, you have seen plenty on this league. Connor taking her to the top 8 and in fact, the finals of Calling in Lyon. But this Azalea is not running Death Dealer, which, a little bit iffy. Some might consider sacrilege, but she is in fact on Sanskar Greatbow, which opens up a different wealth of possibilities entirely for this deck. Hank, we've seen his deck perform extremely well throughout this entire league, but most importantly, he's gotten so many new tools. Malefic Incantation, Deadwood Dirge, Succumb to Temptation. You actually have access to Thoughtseize. How are these all going to pan out? And if you Thoughtseize the right card out of Azalea's hand, that's it. Anyway, without further ado, I've talked enough. We'll get over to the gameplay and we'll see what these two players have cooking up. Hank wins the die roll, so he's obviously going to make a choice. Very different configuration here from what we're used to seeing. Now, Hank on Reaping Blade in Florian, normally a dyed-in-the-wool scepter player. It'll be very interesting to see what he's going to do here. And Lynette obviously got that Sanskar Greatbow, that quiver of rustling leaves. That's the one, as opposed to the very usual card you see, which is Crow's Nest, Azalea Spec. Hank pitching a blue to make a rune chant using his Grasp of the Arknight after playing a Mordred Tide. Excellent start, making 2 rune chants. And is Hank going to follow this up with a couple more non-attack actions? Maybe get some setup done, not let Lynette filter. Lynette obviously on Perch Grapplers, so no Snapdragon Scaler is going to be coming from this matchup. And we have a Rune Rager Swarm coming in, 2 Arcane, 3 Go Again, and generating 2 more rune chants, thanks to Mordred Tide. 1 trigger from Viserai becomes 2 rune chants. Hank leading with a very aggressive start. I like this change, Hank. You might have made a good change here for the top 8. It definitely will help you out in that awkward matchup that you were finding into Enigma. So 2 Arcane coming in, 3 physical, and 1 card left in hand. Could be anything. Could be nothing. Could be a Succumb to Temptation, but it's not great on turn 1. Yeah, Lynette just opting to take the 2 Arcane and is going to cover 3 with a Sleep Dart on that, and Hank is going to follow up with Reaping Blade and 2 Arcane. A pretty solid turn, if I do say so myself. I imagine Lynette has got a very red heavy hand. That's why she's not pitching to those rune chants, because it becomes very inefficient to try and block 1 damage with a 3 plus value card. Hank arsenaling, drawing up. Lynette starts with the traditional ticking up of the tunic. Don't forget it. A lot of graded cards in play here. I believe that is a graded 6 Azalea hero. I love it. If anyone can get me a 1 graded Briar, I will be eternally grateful. That is a piece for my collection. My favorite hero of all time. Pitching a red in the ledger to Sanskar, great bono. Look at the top card of your deck. You may put an arrow from your hand or the top of your deck face up into your arsenal. And whenever an arrow is put face up into the arsenal, gains a name counter. Now, another weird deviation here for Lynette is that Skullbone Crosswrap. Normally, when you see a Sanskar Great Bow list, it is on what's it called? Blank New Horizons, the one that allows 2 arsenal slots because it allows you to set up 6-card hands. Obviously, without the Snapdragon Scalers, that's an awful lot harder to do. But this also gives Lynette the out of being able to pop those bullseye bracers in order to reload an arrow if she ever gets blocked out and can't activate her bow again. So currently with 2 cards in hand, Lynette not loading from the top of her deck, but instead loading the arrow from hand. No. Now we have a Knock the Death Whistle. So what are we going to grab here? I can't imagine it's going to be a red in the ledger. That would cost 1 resource, and Hank has a wealth of fridge to block with here. Lynette searching. Drill Shot would be a good one. Anything that would allow interaction with that armor suite, because armor is health in this matchup. It allows Hank to mess around. Oh, now that's an interesting card. For those not in the know, this is red at the ledger at home. So when it has an aim counter, an opponent may only take 1 action, 1 non-attack action, and 1 action per turn. So it's a diet red in the ledger. So it goes on top from this, and now we have an Azalea activation. So the name is escaping me, but I do know it. Aim counter goes on. Lynette going to drop a card here. Yep, a Lace with Inertia. And here we have 7 damage with an immobilizing shot. So there's a good chance here that Hank is going to give up 2 pieces of that armor and a card. Viserai, fantastic at blocking out for an aggressive deck, because all his cards, generally speaking, block 3. The ones that didn't have mostly been cut from the deck in Mauvrion Skies, which was a bad card that made the deck playable. And now we have instead things like Deadwood Dirge and Malefic Manifestations. Always dangerous now as well with Deadwood Dirge in the deck, giving Viserai a thing like a Aura token. They can be like, thank you for the rune chance. I needed those. So we have 7 coming in here. I'd be very surprised if Hank takes any of this damage. Obviously, this is dominated. If he has a defense reaction, maybe he uses it. Something like a Sigil of Suffering. A 5 value play. Pretty good. Hank lining up his blocks here. Something like Haunting Rendition, which is a recent card from Rosetta, very good. Blocks 4. Not only does it block 4, you can pitch it from your hand to prevent damage. And if you prevent damage, you get a rune chant. It's pretty spicy. I've got big think here from Hank. Lining up those blocks. You love to see it, as we learned on the 5th anniversary stream for anyone who watched. Blocking with your cards sideways to show that they're blocking. So we've got a Mordred Tide. Very surprising to see that one given up. A Dyadic Carapace and the Grasp of the Arknight. Having that 7 block fridge plus another 2 blocks later on, pretty good. I wonder what Hank is holding that he wanted to give up the Mordred Tide. Either those are cards that do not block 3, or he's about to throw a lot of attacks. Because Mordred Tide really is still, even now, linked to your big power turns as Viserai. All right, we're going to lead on a Sonata. That's a 2 block, so I can understand not using that one. Attack, attack, non-attack. Boom. Got there. Got him, Hank. Good job. So which of these two are we taking, the Amplify the Arcanite or the Rune Rager Swarm? The Rune Rager Swarm obviously just has go again on its own. Now, because Viserai will help fuel it, looks like we're going to take the blue Amplify the Arcanite and score a ping of arcane damage, which Lynette is not going to block because obviously efficiency. Give the deck a quick shuffle. So Sonata Arcanix, one of the all-time greats, possibly in contention for some of the best art in Flesh and Blood. And if I had the time, the money, and the pain tolerance, I would probably make an amazing tattoo. So let's see what Hank leads on here. Perhaps he needed an attack in his hand, so he gave up on the Mordred Tide. We have a blue Rune Rager Swarm, generating a rune chant. So we have a 1 go again. Again, very inefficient to block this, so Lynette is most likely letting it through, taking the 1 damage. Taking 1. Yeah, makes sense to me. Drawn to the Dark Dimension. I think me personally, I would have given up the Rune Rager Swarm here, but I can understand Hank's decision. So first we have 1 Arcane. 2 floating. Those Spellbound Creepers just chilling. Taking the 1 Arcane. Draw for the drawn. Now, if there's a non-attack in hand or arsenal with go again, Hank can extend this turn slightly further. Moving 2 blocks to see what Lynette decides to do. She decides to block with the Bolton shot. And what is Hank going to do here to follow this up? Does he have anything? Or are we going to IP ourselves? It looks like he has a Rattlebones if he's looking at his graveyard. You can always close the combat chain, Rattlebones, and go again. Drawn does not have go again. That's correct. Now, obviously, Hank can Spellbound Creepers here. And in fact, it doesn't really matter. Rattlebones can be played as an instant because arcane damage has been dealt here. So Hank has some out of order sequencing, but this is a perfectly and reasonable legal play here. He wouldn't have had to do this in the order of play Rattlebones, play Malefic, but this is exactly how the turn would play out. So don't worry there. Slight missequencing, but very correct play. Dealing 3 more damage, obviously drawing the card. So we're all looking good for the Goblin King. Get an arsenal. We have our Malefic, so we've got a nice little setup to keep our turns flowing over. We get that rhythm in our rune chants going. Now we have 3 cards in hand here for Lynette. Let's see how best to use them. We know there's a red in the ledger that's been put to the bottom. And we know a Knock the Death Whistle has been played, which is one of the big power cards here. But every card you take off Azalea really does decrease the overall ceiling of her turns from 14, 17 damage to like 8 to 11, which is a much more manageable number. So we have an activation of Sanskar Great Bow, pitching a Spire Sniping, loading another immobilizing shot. Obviously, this gets an aim counter as well from the Sanskar Great Bow because it comes in face up. And we're just going to send 4. Now, me personally, I'm a suspicious kind of guy. 4 doesn't really seem all that much. So, what are the odds? What are the chances that that last card in hand is a Rain Razors? That would be my bet. Now, Hank can obviously choose to play around that by blocking 6, depending on what his hand looks like. Obviously, the context of his hand is a big deal here. But it looks like Hank is just going to say, I'll take 4. Have your arsenal. What's he going to do with 4 cards then? If he has another Sonata Arcanics, of course, he can just pitch into it, and that's fine. 4 blues. That's a beautiful hand, Hank. I suppose at least you can always pitch some of those blues into that beautiful Grasp of the Arcanite that you have there. One of the greatest pieces of equipment ever printed, and it will be a hard push for LSS to ever print something that can replace that in the Runeblade arm slot. Machinations of Domination. Fabulous. Floating 1. So this is Hank's attack action for turn. So we have a 2 Arcane. We generate a rune chant from our Malefic. Obviously, Hank can dump some of these excess blues now into Grasp, play a non-attack. Yeah, so that's a 2 block covered with the boots, and Hank always has access now to that Reaping Blade to throw the last damage in. So we're going to Condemn to Slaughter. Your next Rune Blade attack gets +1. You may destroy an aura you control. If you do, each opponent does. That should not tick up because that is the only non-attack we've played this turn. So we are adding a rune chant that we shouldn't add. Oh, well, no. We are adding a rune chant we shouldn't add really here. So we should only have 1 arcane, but it should be 1 and 5. But we have 7 damage coming in. 1 card out left over. Managed to play it the entire turn. Did Immobilizing Shot not have the aim counter? I can't remember how Sanskar Great Bow works. I don't play against it a lot. And we're putting Lynette to 19. Hank really, after his loss at the last round of Swiss, he is coming back with a vengeance. All right, Lynette going to tick up that tunic. We're going to see the first Skullbone Crosswrap activation of the game, revealing a Deadeye. Immediately to the bottom. Immediately to the bottom. Don't want to see it. Pitching a Rain Razors for a Deadeye. So if an arrow gets an aim counter, it's a Thoughtseize arrow. We're going to activate the Sanskar Great Bow with the 1 floating, leaving it on top. That's a tough one. Ah, I see. It has to be from the deck. All right. So we're going to activate Azalea, putting in a big Remorseless. So this is now going to be a Dominate Thoughtseize, deal you some damage arrow. It's pretty good. Hey Hank, if you have a reduced to rune chant or something like that, now's the time to have it. Maybe not. Yeah, Seek and Destroy. Really good on hit to pair with Dominate. So we're currently looking at 11. And pitching. Mm, using the tunic, very good. Yeah, don't pitch the last card. Make sure you have the arsenal and sending in an 11 dominate. Defense reactions can't be played from arsenal. Whenever it hits, every time they play an action, they lose a life, and I get to take a card out of your hand. And if you have cards left over at the end of your turn, they all go away to the graveyard. Pretty strong. Be very interesting to see how Hank navigates this. Obviously, if he has more than one attack in hand, it's going to be okay. If he has more than one non-attack, if he has methods of go again, he's fine. But this on hit could actually snipe something very relevant. Yeah, we're just going to take it. Yeah, should have taken 11 there, Hank. But look. Oh, there's one attack, but there's a Become the Arknight which finds an attack. There is a Sonata Arcanix which can find an attack, and there's Succumb to Temptation, which is a bit nasty. It's a Thoughtseize. It's very powerful. The ability to just rip an Azalea's hand apart is so strong. I personally did it at the weekend at a charity event for fun. I managed to rip both um, both of my opponent's arrows out of their hand with one attack, and let me just say they were straight up having a bad time. I think you should really be taking damage from Remorseless, but also Lynette, you should be remembering your triggers here as well. So both players' responsibility to maintain the game state might give you a GRV. I'm an L1 judge. I know what to do in this situation. Can't be missing your detrimental triggers, Hank. But we have I see we've just put Lynette. Instead of trying to sneak in that Succumb to Temptation now that it's known, we're just going like, okay, whatever. Let's see if you know. So one go again, Thoughtseize. Ooh, let's see how Lynette decides to navigate this one. It's been a bit of a scrappy game here in the top 8, but hey, when nothing is on the line, no one is going to play perfectly. The nerves are going to get to you. Oh, yeah, we're just going like, yeah, here's my tunic. For sure, King. Now let's see what Hank decides to do with the last couple cards in his hand. This is why you should wait on the Succumb to Temptation. You could play it as an instant, generate an action point, would allow Hank to go 2 more attacks wide instead of just the one. Telling you. But again, Hank, more known for this turtle burst style of Viserai, probably still getting to grips with a lot of the new cards, a lot of the nuances of playing a very aggressive list. I know it's a kind of a different experience entirely as someone who's played an awful lot of aggressive Viserai. But now we have 2 and 6 coming in. If the 6 hits, Lynette is losing a card from hand. But if she blocks it, she's losing 2 cards from hand. So we're really putting you in the squeeze here. The sleeper hold is locked in for Viserai, who, by all accounts, should be 3 life lower. In fact, should be 6 life lower. So Lynette taking 10, Hank getting his own Thoughtseize back. Take the arrow, take the arrow, take the arrow. Oh, take the memorial ground. Yeah. Rip that one out. Put that one in the bin. Or we take the arrow. Arrow's also good. I suppose at least that forces Lynette to have either an arrow in arsenal or on top of her deck. Yeah, all the remorseless triggers are missed. I'm keeping a track here. Hank should be on 22 currently. So if he wins by 6 exact points of life, I'll be very surprised. So we have a flipping up of this Murkmar grapnel. Opting. Let's see if Lynette decides she wants the card on top of her deck. Or are we just going to throw this Murkmar grapnel? Obviously, we've got Memorial Grant. We get to choose what's on top of our deck now. It's going to be an immobilizing shot. So that's going to be a dominated immobilizing shot with a name counter. And 2 buffs attached. Yep, read the glide path. Leave it on top. Lace with inertia. So it's going to be an 11 damage swing here from Lynette. Or 10 even, because it's a 0 cost arrow, so it's a 10 damage attack. Hank obviously can't defend with more than 1 card from hand, but it might be time to cash in some of that fridge to prevent some damage, get a card out of hand. That way he can still pitch to grasp, play in non-attack and play an attack, and clear his hand and still deal a significant chunk of damage. When your opponent's at 10, 1 damage is 10% of their life total. That's a pretty big swing for Hank. But yes, there should definitely be at least some amount of blocking done here. So let's see how we navigate this one. Obviously, we give up 1 block here. And yeah, we're just going to go to 21. We're going to go to 15. Keeping the armor just in case. And Hank is going to turn that inertia into a Deadwood Dirge. Excellent. Just what I was talking about earlier. We're going to pop that inertia. Thanks for giving me an aura to destroy. We love that. We love that for us. And then we're going to Swarming Gloomveil. It's going to be 4 Arcane. 4 go again on hit. Can't prevent Arcane. We're going to generate a rune chant from Viserai. And we're going to use that last card to attack with a Reaping Blade. Excellent. All right. Under the bus you go. Skullbone Crosswrap. Let's see what we have here. Are we taking the rune chance? Because obviously the arcane comes in first. Lynette in a bit of a squeeze here. It's going to be a tight game plan to get through this. One card in hand, so you know no matter what it is, it's following up with Reaping Blade. It looks like we're opting to take some of this damage. Or are we? We're really thinking about our outs in this situation if we're Lynette. It's a tough place to be with staring down 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage coming into you when you're on 10. Not ideal. All right, taking the 4 rune chance. Big old 4 ball to the face, and another 4 coming at you. Now, if you take a single point of this damage, that means that rune chant is free. Now, you may not care. You may not want to pitch an entire card for that one rune chant. If you're not pitching for 4, you're not pitching for 1. All the same. So, Lynette, looking at her cards in hand, 4 cards. Knowing that there's another 4 chasing this. Trying to find willing a way out. Yeah, we're just going to block 4. Full block on that. And Hank, with 2 cards in hand, you should 100% send 2/3 of their life total at their face. Thinking a lot about this one, Hank. I'm very surprised. Opponents at 6. I can send 4. I would send 4. There's a good chance you catch them on just going to a singular card. If even. Yeah. There we go. 1 arcane. 3 physical. Bang. Just a casual 66% of your life total. That's all. How's Lynette going to answer this one? Obviously, I think she's going to be taking that 1 ball of arcane. It's the 3 physical that she's going to have to do some thinking about. Hank in a very commanding position, even if he was at the 15 life he should be at, because he still has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocking armor. So he actually is 5 higher than that. And Lynette is just going to pitch to the arcane, block the 3 physical, and say, "Oh, we'll get him next turn, champ." Maybe he'll brick. He is still Viserai, and sometimes, no matter how consistent you make the deck, you could just be like, "Oh, sick! This hand does nothing." And now let's see what Hank decides to do. Hmm. How best to use these four card hands to try and present overwhelmingly lethal to our Azalea opponent because she's really behind the eight ball here. Viserai is fully in command of this game. Never believe that Viserai can sometimes just poo the bed, though. He can just decide he ain't doing it today. So what have we got here? We have a pitch into grasp, I imagine. Floating one. Yeah, making a rune chant. Vexing Malice as an amazing finisher in Viserai because you're just like, how much AB you got? How many resources you got? Here's two. And again, we've got the Rune Rager Swarm. So we have, again, 66% of the life total on the table. Hank still has two cards in hand. So we're going to prevent one rune chant and block three. Pretty simple. So how do we follow this one up now? Swarming Gloomveil. Three. It has go again because a single rune chant has been made this turn. One card in hand. We're really in the vice here as Lynette. Just this ability to go wide that Viserai has been given from Rosetta is insane. Because if Lynette doesn't block this, then a Reaping Blade follow up is a must block. Likewise, we don't know what's in Hank's hand. Could be something, could be nothing, could be a Snuff Out, which is a 5 power attack. Yeah, so we're going to block two. We're going to take one. We're going to go to five. Oh, no, we're going to cash in the Skullbone Cross Wrap as well. It ain't getting much use on these low hands, and we're going to send in another three. We're really in blockout party here for Lynette. And we're just going to Arsenal pass. Lynette going to three here. And we're just going to Codex of Frailty something back here. Get a Ponder. Give Hank a Frailty. Hope that we don't feed another Deadwood Dirge. And maybe we get something here to help the situation. Just get this Endless Arrow back. Pretty solid one card hand, I must say. But this is the easiest four block of my life if you're Hank. With five cards, there's no way you don't just full block this one. There's no point in giving up any amount of value. Like any route back into this game should be closed off as soon as possible. So we have four coming in. Endless Arrow. Maybe I'm a bit cavalier, but I am windmill slamming four armor into this and saying, yeah, whatever. I got five cards. Good luck. If I don't like my arsenal, I'll switch it out for something else with this crown. Let's see if Hank is cavalier as me. When you've got this sort of advantage, you need to press it as much as possible. Hank going to actually 11. He is either super patient or he forgets about armor. I'm not sure. But we should, with a 5 card Viserai hand, it shouldn't be too much of an issue to force through some damage here. So we're going to draw from the Dark Dimension. We're going to draw a card here. There has to be some Spellbound Creeper shenanigans going on. Otherwise, Hank has gone insane. Yeah, we're going to activate Spellbound Creepers using our resource floating. We're going to Rattle Bones. Over pitching, is it? No, pitching 2 reds. We're going to get back a card. I imagine it's going to be Swarming Gloomveil or something of that like, which tells me there's a finisher in the arsenal. Or again, we've all gone insane. So we have no rune chance currently. Swarming will make 1. That does not close the combat chain. The good thing about instants. So maybe Hank has something to follow up this Rattlebones. Maybe personally I would have led on the Rattlebones, but it could have come off the top. There's a Swarming Gloomveil. Yeah, that'll be good. 5 rune chance, baby. So we have a 5 and a 4 coming in here against Lynette. We're making a rune chant that's going to disappear because Swarming Gloomveil says so. Or Revelin Runeblood even says so. But we are throwing 9 damage here against their opponent with 3 cards in hand at 3 life. So let's see. Lynette needs to have a blue and then 2 cards that block. Or mathematically, I don't know if there's a way out. We're just drawing this one out now. Lynette obviously doing the maths to see how dead she is. What did Hank pitch first? God only knows. Yeah, so we have a yellow pitch. Still lethal in rune chance. If we have another yellow pitch here, we have a red pitch, and then a 3 block. So that is going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the game. Hank Sherlock, despite the scrappiness of that game, is moving on to the semi-finals. And it turned out the extra 7 of life didn't matter. But Hank, for the love of God, use your armor. Use your armor. It's there. It's free. Well played, guys. Tough break, Lynette, after scrapping her way into the top 8, getting knocked out by a very aggressive version of Viserai. And it's great to see different builds of heroes like Sanska or Azalea do so well. Hank, congratulations on wising up to a good deck, and I will see you guys in the next one. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and if you're looking to talk to me about all things Flesh and Blood, please find me on Twitter at @finals_spirit. Bye.